Here we go.
Hello, music multiverse listeners. Welcome to Beyond Your Radio. I'm your host, Mark Kulagowski, and welcome to another Panelist's Favorite Show. We've moved up a decade, unfortunately. Tonight, it's our Panelist Favorites from 1980. In that music year, the Soviet Union hosted its first rock festival. The MV Mi Amigo, the ship that hosted the pirate Radio Caroline, sank off the English coast. Obviously, they picked up another ship in 1983. And of course, John Lennon was shot and killed in December. But before we get into their lists, if you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button. Turn it on. Turn it on. Turn it on again. Please like and comment. I'm going to follow you until I wear you down. The panelists tonight get a chance to do their 5 favorites. And tonight's special night because we're going to let the Grateful Dude do his 5 right off the bat. Obviously, the panelists tonight get to share 5 of their favorites. That's their favorites. There's nothing about it that needs to be a critical darling. It can come from any genre. It could be released in the United States. It could be released in Pakistan. Again, that's their favorites, just like they're your favorites. No one's wrong, except for Alex, who decided not to join us tonight because it's 1980.
He's wrong.
I thought about not joining either. No. All right, yeah, so Grateful Dude is here. We got Jeff Young and we got Sue Kulagowski just up the stairs. Is everyone good tonight?
Yeah. We're all good.
Yeah.
Besides that horrible intro?
I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah. Well, on that note, let's get it from the Grateful Dude. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.
Okay, guys. Howdy from the beautiful state of Hawaii, where it's always hot and always sunny, except on other times. Anyway, so let's start with my number 5 pick. I really, first of all 5 of these people I have seen in concert, and this lady I had a crush on since I was knee-high to a gopher. This lady just blows me out of the water every time. I am talking about the wonderful, beautiful Pat Benatar. This album is, I think, by and far her best. It had her biggest hits on it. It had her three albums of 3 songs on this album went number 1. This is Crimes of Passion. August 5th, 1980. You Better Run, Hit Me With Your Best Shot, and Treat Me Right all went number 1. I love this album. There's nothing not to like. If you don't like Pat Benatar, you're not going to like the album. But she's got I call her burning style. She's electric, especially if you see her in concert. She's just unbelievable. I don't know what else I can say about this album, but if you guys have not heard it and you want to hear a little blistering rock and roll by a lady who's got more guts in her throat than I do in my whole body, you definitely need to listen to this lady. She just bangs it. She's once I heard a friend of mine describe her, she's the white Diana Ross. So, but she can really bang.
No disco.
No disco here. No disco. So, anyway, and then now my next one. This personally, we've talked about me and Mark. Mark personally doesn't like this album. Maybe he hasn't figured his band out yet, which is what I believe. But we're talking about 1980 Black Sabbath, Heaven and Hell. I think it's their maybe second or third best album. Had great songs on it. It was still Black Sabbath. I mean, you can't. The great thing about Black Sabbath is in all the albums they did, they always sounded the same. maybe that's a negative, but their writing was the same. Their lyrics were the same style. It was that kind of darkness, a little screaming on the left and stuff like that. You know, uh, all I can say is that for those people who don't like Black Sabbath out there, I pity them. I really do.
I'm not
I
saying I
pity
don't
a
like Black
fool.
Sabbath. This album for me is I Rodney James Dio is not in my I love the operatic voice. He's got a better range than Ozzy, but it's just it doesn't feel as haunting to me as it doesn't feel as Sabbathy or Black. I don't know which whatever. I'm sure that name is going to come up again if I put my money on. But yeah, yeah, it's a great record. I that's you know, it's up there in their catalog. I don't know when you see them. Jeff, you've seen them live. Do they? How much do
Uh,
they play off? How many they
seven
play off
times.
that album now?
You know, it's funny. I don't understand them, with the exception of one of the concerts. They go everywhere. They play covers. They play their stuff. They don't have seem. And if you see them, one time I saw them on a Friday, and then again on the same at the same venue on Sunday, and it was a totally different set. Nothing was the same.
Hmm.
So it's really interesting because I don't understand their set lists. I really don't.
Yeah, I've seen Black Sabbath with Ozzy, and I've seen them with Dio.
Yeah.
Um,
yeah.
Yeah, they were
Did you like them? Did you like them?
I mean, I'm a huge Sabbath fan. I love Sabbath.
Well, we have something
because I was younger. I grew up on Ozzy. And I didn't even realize there was an Ozzy version of Black Sabbath. I was such a young kid. You know, in 1980. I mean, what am I, 9 years old? I mean, it's like so.
Exactly. 1980, I was 25. So,
yeah.
Anyway, okay, let's go on to my next, the number 3. This is another band I've seen quite a few times. I love the hell out of them. The band I'm talking about is Dire Straits. The album, again, Mark doesn't feel this is a great album. I do. He's making movies.
I think it's good.
You think it sucks, right?
It's good. Any Knopfler is good Knopfler, right?
This is great. Anyway, this was released in October in 1980. It was their third studio album. There was a couple songs that really, the Romeo and Juliet was still one of my favorite Dire Straits songs. The writing on that thing is just incredible. It really is. The production, Tunnel of Love, I loved, and which is the from the film Officer and a Gentleman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't remember if that was nominated for Oscar or not. It might have been.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, but besides Tunnel of Love and Romeo and Juliet, the others real popular song in that, and I really enjoyed the song, is Skate Away. But yeah, that was really good. Dire Straits has never let me down. I've seen them quite a few times in concert. They are wicked. They really are. And I'm just glad I'm old enough to see them, because age sometimes has a small advantages.
True story.
And now, what is your number 2?
Hang on, I'm bringing up my notes. Sometimes I'm a little fast. Sometimes I'm slow. Okay, this is a band that not only have I seen in concert, I saw these guys 3 years ago in Hilo. They did the tennis stadium.
Okay, that's kind of cool. I'd like to see.
It was really cool. It's only a 700 person venue, and who I'm talking about is UB40.
Oh, cool.
And I love this band. Their reggae just kicks me. I just love it. I've always been a reggae fan, especially with Marley and stuff like that. But after hearing UB40 and listening to their songs, they were just great. Signing Off was their first debut. That was their debut.
Yeah.
Debut.
Weird
album.
name for a first album.
Yeah, Signing Off. Well, but it was. Some of the songs were flat. They weren't. I don't think they're their best album, but their only album in 1980, and I'm controlled by the year here. So, but they were really, really good. I'm hearing rumors that they're going to do another U.S. tour, so I'm hoping that happens, because if I can see it, or you guys out there, if you want to hear guys that just jam, I heard that three of these guys don't even read music. So, it's really incredible what they produce. It's a different kind of reggae. It's more smooth, more jazzy. But I really, it's not Bob Marley's reggae. It is reggae. It's got the reggae beat, but it's definitely different. So, and then my number one.
So what you're saying is it's music that you could drink red wine to.
Red. You don't want to hear something real funny, really funny? That song by UB40 is your ringtone to me.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh. Yeah, well, Petit Verdot. Okay, well, let's slide.
Yeah, anytime I hear red wine, I think of you. So, not a bad way to be thought about, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, so my number one pick for tonight is, I think, the best album of 1980. Mark will not agree with me on this one, because we've already had rolling discussions on this. But this is, we're talking about the man. We're talking about the best. We're talking about Mr. Bruce Springsteen and The River. That whole album just rocks. All the songs are good. I do not have a song on that album I do not like. Whether you're a Bruce fan or not, there's very little not to like about that album. What do you think about that, Mr. Mark?
Well, I think it's too long.
The album or the song?
No, I just think the album's too long. I don't know. I don't know. It's me. Bruce, my favorite Bruce Springsteen record is Nebraska. That's obviously a shorter record. But I don't know. I got to go back. This is a little bit more the bandy, jumpy. Yeah. And I won't say much, because who knows? This is a very popular album in 1980. Yeah, probably top 5 in sales, or 10 maybe. So I won't say much, because I'm sure maybe other people might have something to say.
Yeah.
No, well enough.
I just I don't know.
Okay. What were the top songs on that album? I don't remember.
I gotta look it up.
Oh, well,
The River. A River,
right?
You got it in front of you.
And here's my problem, right? You can't they light blue on dark. Yeah, thanks. Can't appreciate that. Hang on.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's when they do that, you can't read the titles, and so Hungry Heart.
Hungry Heart was on there,
obviously.
The River.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. There was one other one. Drive All Night? No.
Drive All Night's a great song.
The Ties That Bind, Sherry Darling, Jackson Cage, Two Hearts, Independence Day, Out on the Street.
Yeah.
I Want to Marry You, which, shortest song was You Can Look But You Can't Touch. So,
Jeff, this one surprised you, but because of, I guess, our ages, really the first introduction I had to Bruce was Born in the USA.
course.
Yeah, and another thing with this album, one of his early albums, the E Street Band was cranking on this thing. They were all hitting all 8 cylinders.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
well,
it's got a lot. It's got a lot of the music on it is top notch. It's well produced for the time. For me, this is one of my biggest problems with 1980 is the production variations were just not there. I don't know. But
at the time you wouldn't have thought anything about it because that was what it was.
So here's what one of the biggest conversations, because we're thinking about other shows, is the paradox of moving forward in music. Okay, there's no auto tune in 1980, right? Everyone's voice is what their voice, not 60s, not 70s. And now you hear things today, and boy, that sounds fantastic. But is it real? Is it right? Can they pull it off? And this, I think this is a representation of the live and the band itself, right? And at that point, they did a really good job of producing it among other records that are going on in 80. But there's some dogs in 80. They're great albums to everybody, but I can't listen to them because the production drives me crazy. Sounds like they did it in a shoebox. Or there's way too... One of the albums, I think I even have a note on it says...
Isn't that remastered by now?
This? If this was... Well, you can see I got this out of the used bin. This is not remastered. So...
But there is a new remastered out. There is a new remastered out. Okay, let me go on with my my honorable mentions. I'm going to say these really quick because I started out with 35 albums to break it down to 5, but there's other ones that I just needed to say because they're
way to put the work in, Jeff.
Hey, somebody's got to. Okay,
somebody's got to stick up for 1980.
Yeah, somebody's got to again. So
Jeff's gonna name all of our albums now.
Remember, I was old in 80. You guys were all, still in diapers. So But anyway, so my honorable mentions. The first one, his first solo album, I think it's a great album. It's Pete Townshend's Empty Glass. The next one is, and I dabbled, especially in my mid-20s, into a bit of punk here and there. So the next one, I saw these people. It was great. We're talking about the Ramones, End of the Century. Great album. Matter of fact, I listened to it this morning while I was having my coffee.
So way to start the day.
Yeah. And then this is the one me and Mark have. We are so far apart on this one, we'll never meet. I think this band is one of the best bands of the 80s, period. I love everything he's ever done. Mark has exactly the opposite feeling. I'm talking about my boy, Bob Seger, in the Silver Bullet Band.
Oh, yeah.
I love that.
Which album?
And the album is called Against the Wind.
Oh, that's classic song.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah, but he's got Turn a Page on that. There's a whole bunch of classics on that.
That was a good one.
I've seen Bob Seger live.
But Mark just doesn't have any taste. But that's only for me. We love you, Mark. You know that. Okay, another one, which I like it because it was his farewell album. He didn't do another album after this because of his tragic death. I am talking about John Lennon and Yoko Ono Double Fantasy album. Good album. Really, some really good writing. It was sad to think that this is the last time we'd be able to hear him write. It was really a tragedy. Another one, not one of their best albums, but still, anytime you bring up Queen to me, I gotta like the album. I've heard all their albums, even though there's a lot of copies here and there. Queen, The Game is great. Now, another where Mark and me go a little bit astray, and I love these guys, love them. You see them in concert, you can't dislike them. They're just too freaking weird. I'm talking about the Talking Heads, Remain in Light. They are they are amazing. And then last but not least, because unfortunately, guys, I have a previous engagement I got to get to. That's why Mark has allowed me to go first. So I may go to do my thing, but I wanted to get you guys all my picks because you guys don't realize how much work we have to do to think about these things. I don't have much brain power anymore. My brains went.
I thought you didn't have much hair anymore.
Yeah, well, my brains went with my hair. So, so the last one, and this lady is gifted in more ways than almost any one female singer, and I'm talking about Diana Ross, and the album is Diana. So, but wonderful. Anyway, Jeff, Sue, Mark, thank you for your patience. Thanks for allowing me to get in and get out. And we will see you guys all. I'll be there for Saturday reviews. So make sure you subscribe, you push that like button, and we'll see you on Saturday. Aloha, guys. Bye.
See ya, Grateful Dude.
Bye.
Good pick. Good pick. So,
well, now that we just named every album in 1980.
Jeff, we'll go to you for your number 5, and then we'll alternate.
Sorry, did you say you're going to me? So,
yep.
3 of these 5 albums I'm picking, I've actually already talked about amongst this group already for other reasons, but I'm going with Ozzy Osbourne, Blizzard of Oz.
Right.
So, that was Ozzy's first solo album, and I don't want to get too far into it, but it's just one of those. It's like the first cassette tape I ever bought with my own money, and so I just pretty much grew up on it, and just good tracks, great guitar work, again, it's got older production. I'm sure it's remastered by now, but pretty well received album, and tracks are still good.
Yeah, that's what in the catalog of his, where does that stand for you? Is that up there, or does he get better as it goes on?
Pretty solid all around. I mean, you got some songs that he'll continue to play when he does perform. He probably doesn't perform as much anymore, but he's almost always played Mr. Crowley, obviously Crazy Train, which is played to death. But then he's got like some other melodic ones like D, and even just I Don't Know is a little more hard for him, but just a lot of good variety in the guitar work from Randy Rhoads, and it's just good.
Cool. Sue, with that lovely Beyond Your Radio shirt on, what's your number 5?
So I'm gonna go with Pat Benatar's Crimes of Passion, which Jeff kind of already covered all the bases on it, but it just takes me back to the 80s, and it was released 2 days after my birthday, so there's that. And of course, like my favorite songs were "Hit Me with Your Best Shot" and then "Hell Is for Children." I mean, it's such a disturbing song, but I mean, I guess leave it to Pat Benatar to kind of put something serious to rock. So, obviously it was talking about child abuse, and so she did a good job with it. It's memorable, and it was just a good album. So, my number 5.
Excellent. So my number 5 in 1980, and I've already told you that I have problems with 80. Again, production-wise, trying to find things and listening to albums, and there are just spots where the albums, they like one song's great, another song's really good, and then something doesn't sound right, doesn't like somebody else produced it, and there are albums that I just went, gosh, I thought that sounded better than that. Didn't. So it was a difficult exercise for me. I did have, I think I had about 31 records, 30, somewhere around.
Wow.
So my number 5 is the Blues Brothers soundtrack. because by God, I'll play the hell out of that. Not only is it the idea of that wholesome, fun movie where they crashed a shitload of cars and all the crazy performances and dance numbers and guest appearances. It's the fact that the blues and soul have a fever. You want to get up and dance, take a tail feather. But it brings me back to that time. The first time I was supposed to watch it, my father wanted to watch with me, and we didn't get to watch it because I was playing Pac-Man and I flipped it that night. So he had to wait for the re-showing of it the next day to show it to me. But you're talking, she caught the caddy, which it starts when they're getting out of jail. That's written by Taj Mahal. There's the Peter Gunn thing, but that's Henry Mancini. Steve Winwood wrote one of the songs with Spencer Davis, Aretha Franklin. Somebody else is on there. I don't remember who the other, but these are a lot of professionals getting involved in this, and obviously the Blues Brothers is a sort of fake band, but both those men sang on those albums and did their thing. They even toured live. Jeff, the Grateful Dude, did see them. He said at one of the festivals. So that's and then Cab Calloway, Minnie the Moocher. Come on. When he does that dance and all of a sudden he flips it and all of a sudden he's in a white suit. That's fantastic. One of the greatest old time songs of all time.
So the next time we watch that movie, you're gonna get up and dance?
Yes.
Okay.
He's more likely to crash your car.
Oh, yes. And I love it that the cars keep getting piled on top of each other farther. It's like impossible to even happen, but it keeps happening. Anyway, to you, Jeff, for number 4.
Yeah, another one I've talked about before, but I guess I'm the second one to pick this. Black Sabbath, Heaven and Hell. The first album without Ozzy. Kind of funny how I talk about it. Ozzy's first album. Now I'm talking about the first album after he left with Black Sabbath with Ronnie James Dio. So definitely a different sound for Black Sabbath, but still a good sound and commercially successful. And I think I mentioned last time in our other show that Dio was actually introduced to Tony Iommi through Ozzy's girlfriend at the time, wife, Sharon Osbourne. So just, being in the same circles. But yeah, so just a different way of doing things, kind of changed the way they were writing some of their songs, based on the way Ozzy sang versus how Dio sang. And but good stuff, and a lot of the stuff is still good today. I mean, it's probably their most successful album with Dio. It's probably the one I've listened to the most. But yeah, that's one I picked for number 4.
And would Ozzy sing any of those songs if they would go? Would he?
I've seen Ozzy a few times, but I don't recall him ever singing any of those songs.
I just wondered because the catalog, it's popular. They're going to see Black Sabbath. People like the Heaven and Hell album. Does he sing one of those songs?
I don't think he does.
I can't. I know the live albums. I have a couple of them, but I don't really think about that when I'm listening to whether they passed on Heaven and Hell because it's Ozzy.
I might. I mean, they're all kind of owned by Tony Iommi. He can do whatever he wants, but right. I don't know if they've ever done it or not. I don't know. I don't recall. I've never seen it live myself. Like the only time I saw Dio with Black Sabbath was the anniversary Heaven and Hell tour. So they basically played.
So they played all Heaven and Hell.
So they didn't play any old Sabbath that I remember, but.
Sue, number 4 for you. So my number 4 is Rush, Permanent Waves. And I have seen them in concert.
Multiple times.
Yeah.
With me.
With you, I think, right? Too? At least one time. Was it just one time or were there more? I'm trying to think.
We were all Roll the Bones, right?
Yeah, Roll the Bones.
And then we went to Carolina to see him with your brother during the 4th of July.
That's right. So Permanent Waves. So this was their 7th studio album. It was recorded in Quebec. Some people say this one propelled them from you know, somewhat formulaic into something new and a little more, I don't want to say mainstream because that sounds formulaic, but they just got a little bit more, they were noticed a little bit more and came onto the scene. Permanent Waves would hit number 4 in the US and kind of paved the way to Moving Pictures that came out, I think, a year later. My favorite songs on there are Spirit of Radio, Free Will. I love the sound. I love that whole era actually of Rush, more so than their newer songs. But yeah, just brings back a lot of memories that I'm not going to share tonight. So that's my number 4.
When I was talking to this with the Grateful Dude, he's saying I just never got into Rush, and I said, "Do you ever see him live?" And he said, "No." I said, "Therein lies your problem. Once you see them live, it's on. It's certainly, you know."
I don't think you have to see them live. I think they're incredible, but
I mean, once you realize the magic of 3 guys and what they're doing, it makes it, you get a little bit more understanding. That's at least how it came for me. And I'm a music lover, but they were off my radar because of the voice of Geddy Lee at that point, you know, early on. But then once I, you know, heard it live and saw what they were doing and deeper and deeper. But Spirit of Radio was on our top 5 songs of all time, was it not?
I think that was me, right? Or
Yep.
no?
Yep.
So anyway,
Yeah, everyone's got probably one concert in their life where like, okay, yeah, now I get it.
Now I get it. Yeah. Oops. Okay. So my number 4, what if I told you that a band that's in contention for the top 23 albums of 23 is actually on this list tonight?
I don't believe it.
43 years later. 43. It's astounding to me. But the band A Certain Ratio put out their debut album. Well, album. Nope. Cassette. Demo. The Graveyard and the Ballroom. This is a demo? Are you kidding me? This is fantastic. This is post-punk with funk and jazz elements. But the real blast here is that they're, you know, it's a cassette demo. It sounds ridiculous.
wait,
And while there's a Certain Ratio is the name of the band. Okay. They're coming out of the 70s into the 80s, and they've done it in this, I don't know, holding both of those pieces together in 70s and 80s. You know, I shouldn't say this. Is that how it came to be? They were just starting this in 79 or 78 or whatever it was. And here you are with this record in 1980. It's like demo tapes. And it's crazy how it's all put together. I'm hoping that I can play some of it in this so that people get a taste of it. I'll see if it's workable. But yeah, and the band takes on further elements as into 2023, where they're basically a rock jazz band with funk influence, and some of the same guys, some not, but some of the original still going.
Nice.
That's A Certain Ratio. The Graveyard and the Ballroom. Jeff Young, what's your number? What are we on, 2 now?
Third one I picked is another first for the band. So I picked AC/DC Back in Black, which is the first album with Brian Johnson after their other singer passed away. And I had talked about that actually this album before, but yeah, I mean, Brian Johnson was just running a car shop, then got a call to go try out. Yeah, one was just drinking and hanging out, and the same week or the same day, they wound up writing "You Shook Me All Night Long." It's like their most popular song. They even played at weddings, for Christ's sake, you know. But yeah, I mean, just a kick-ass album. I mean, just rocks from start to finish. Just just one of those albums I think that'll always get play.
Yeah. Yeah. 1980, that album, it stands out the most to me. That's for sure.
And these 3 albums that I picked for my first 3, one of the reasons I picked and as the bottom three was because I'd already talked about them. So, I'm kind of looking forward to other two in a minute.
Oh, that'll be good. Be good. Sue, what's your number three?
Ooh, Big Lightning. It's not my band. There's lightning outside.
Big Lightning. Wait a minute. They didn't release an album in 1980.
They suck.
They're all Flash, but no, never mind.
Yeah. So I am chasing behind Jeff once again, and I'm just gonna do my AC/DC Back in Black. And why did I choose it? Because it was a great album. We also saw AC/DC in concert. So yeah, so I found they released it 5 months after the lead singer Bon Scott died. And I also found a little factoid that the riff for Back in Black was initially a warm-up song from Malcolm Young. I don't know if maybe you already shared that before, Jeff Young, but
he did not.
Haha. And so yeah, Back in Black, Hell's Bells, You Shook Me, Have a Drink on Me, Rock and Roll Ain't Noise Pollution. Back in Black.
My number three, Zenyatta Mondatta, The Police. While not my absolute favorite Police record, it's got a lot of fusion going on and holds the band steady as that era. This is their third record at that point, because I think the era was trying to strangle their sound somehow, and to me anyway. And then, when you've got Sting involved, two jazz professionals in the mix, it's very hard to be in that 80s kind of production realm. And I thought they pulled it off really well. Obviously, this was remastered in 2003, but from Don't Stand So Close to Me, the way it starts doesn't even sound like the way it ends. Driven to Tears, Bombs Away, da-do-do-do, da-da-da-da. But the one song that tells me everything I needed to know about where I was going to be with this band or the lead singer was When the World is Running Down, You Make the Best of What's Still Around. That told me that spoke jazz to me. And then later on, Sting brings that into his environment, and it just becomes the future of everything for him. And that always sticks in my head every time I hear it, and when it's done live and done in different traditional ways. But the whole album has a lot going on. They dabble in genre. They don't just get heavy into it. They can have a reggae type of influence. They can have post-punk, but like Canary in a Coal Mine, such an odd song in there in the mix. Is this a comprehensive flow record? No, but I don't think the Police ever did that. But somehow it all came together. So Zenyatta Mondatta is my number three. Jeff,
so for number two, debut album from Iron Maiden. I always tell people, if you don't like Bruce Dickinson as a singer, listen to the first two albums from Iron Maiden. It's just different. But definitely good rock album with vocals by Tony Diano. And I read a thing where bassist Steve Harris said that basically they produced this album by themselves because they say their actual producer lacked interest in the project. And I saw where Lars Ulrich, drummer for Metallica, said that the song Remember Tomorrow was basically their blueprint for songs like Fade to Black and Welcome Home Sanitarium and some of the more epic ballad type songs that they later created. So definitely an influence on probably the greatest metal band ever. So Iron Maiden, I mean,
would they be the second greatest metal band ever?
First Maiden album I ever got into, probably because of my age again, was Peace of Mind, which was the first Bruce Dickinson album. But once I discovered that, I was like, oh, I got to go check out the other two. And I was like, oh, it's not Bruce Dickinson, but it's really good. It's like,
Yeah. What was my question? Jeez. Was that? Oh, now I lost my question.
What, the greatest metal band?
Well, Well, would they be the second greatest metal band then, Iron Maiden? Next to Metallica?
I don't know who would be the second. I don't know.
You know, who made who? In a way. Okay. Yeah, I'm not as familiar with Iron Maiden. I have several records, but I have always dabbled in the catalog and always fallen off. I don't know what it is. It's
Did you ever hear the For You with Tony Diano or no?
yes,
I
yeah,
think you probably
yeah.
heard Running Free, so that's a pretty popular song.
Yeah, yeah. I knew that the record would be probably talked about. I listened to it once to
Well, you know
5
me.
days Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, 5 days ago, I was like, maybe I just didn't give it the shake, but in my ear, there's the bass is lost to me. It's very tinty.
Well, I mean, they produced it in 13 days because they didn't,
Yeah,
like, what you do.
yeah.
It's probably remastered, but it still probably sounds lacking too, like because they weren't producers.
No, I guess that's probably true. But great album covers, ridiculously good album. Awesome. Sue, number two.
So I thought about Police, but then I was pulled toward this one, and I decided to go with this one because back in that day, I had a cassette recorder and all that, but I was mainly a radio listener in the 80s for
Yeah.
sure. And this guy was on it all the time. So Billy Joel, Glass Houses. Um, yeah, it's kind of like, I don't know, softer, smoother songs. Don't ask me why, you may be right. And then it's still rock and roll to me, played like 20 times a day for a decade, but
Yeah,
I, you know, but I love his voice. He's just a great musician, and I still enjoy those songs. And so, yeah. And a little factoid about that, if you don't know,
I'm
uh,
surprised no one's ever tried to cover that song. It's still rock and roll to me.
well, that's true. No one ever has.
I don't know of anybody. Maybe they have, but I just don't know.
I
I don't.
don't know. No.
Oh,
If they did, it
maybe.
wasn't successful enough for me to know about
Yeah.
it.
Um, yeah, the only other thing I was gonna say is regarding the album name, apparently he was living in a glass house at the time, and I don't know, I don't know what inspires people, but there's the saying, those who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones, and um, yeah, kind of interesting. But the album
It's,
cover is of him standing in front of his house, I believe, too.
yep.
So
Mhm.
Billy
Cool.
Joel, and I saw him in concert too.
And the songs are heavier in concert, right? They kind of like they're up tempo or they're more,
Yeah, I
he
think
delivers.
so.
He
I think
delivers. He
so.
really
Yep.
does.
Mhm.
Yeah. And genuine, right? So he's singing, he's a blue collar guy and just the way he delivers it, right? That's the big take. I mean,
Yeah, he was very engaged with the crowd. It was the old odd, and
mhm.
he was entertaining, and he did belt things out. He was totally into it. So
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I like him a lot. That was on my list too. So my number two, AC/DC Back in Black.
hey,
No question, one of the most solid produced records in 1980. All kinds of great ones. Even the back songs are great too. And the big thing for me on this that puts that up on the list next to my number one is that somebody had the cojones to replace somebody who had cojones.
mhm.
That's crazy to bring in somebody and just like, wow, like they didn't miss a beat. And it's not somebody who was in the band, it's somebody who was just drinking in a pub down the street. So not, I don't know that. I'm just making that up, but
Well, the
that's
two singers knew each other from other bands, and um, Bon Scott had told Angus that, hey, this guy's a really good singer because he's seen him before in another band,
mm,
and they remembered that. They had remembered that after this passing.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. So keep that one short since we've mentioned it 3 times.
Patrick.
So my number one is basically the band I grew up on. That's Van Halen, Women and Children First, their third album. It's the first Van Halen, well, first of three, that didn't actually have any cover songs on it. And this is the album where they start to play a little heavier rhythm, a little heavier music, versus the first two. But the one song, Could This Be Magic, has the only female vocals ever recorded in a Van Halen song. So it's Nicolette Larson sings during some of the choruses. She's most known for working on Neil Young's 1978 hit single "Lot of Love." It was number one on the adult contemporary chart.
Oh, yeah.
But then she later, went on to have a pretty successful country career. And then on that song too, there's rain in the background. Not a special effect. It was actually raining that day.
Oh.
And then
so the producer, again, like I keep telling people, got an ear like well, can't have an ear like a dead fish. So I don't know.
For me, one of my favorite 80s movies is Better Off Dead, and they use the song Everybody Wants Some in a little segment there, the cheeseburger stand. And then but the most successful song from the album is the first song, And the Cradle Will Rock, which rocks. But yeah, it's a kick-ass album. It's a pretty wide variety of songs, even though there's only 9 tracks on it. But a lot of the songs really aren't that long. It's like 3-4 minutes, and but some really a wide variety of guitar work from Eddie Van Halen on those songs too. Really good.
Yes, a little bit more range instead of craziness. Lot less craziness on that record. To me, there's not like the first record. There's crazy guitar being played, right? I mean, just finger tapping, whammy, all the kind. This one has a purpose, has a layer, has a drive to it. Yeah, cool. Sue, you're number one.
Well, I also was thinking about Van Halen, but it didn't make my list. But it should be on the list because they are kind of the 80s. But my number one was definitely one of my earliest first favorite bands, and that would be REO Speedwagon. Album was High Infidelity. It was their 9th studio album, and it had songs Take It on the Run, Keep on Loving You, Don't Let 'Em Go. And re-listening to them, they like if caffeine had a sound, like I feel like it's REO Speedwagon. They're just fast and quick moving and just a really good sound. Yeah, I love it. The keyboardist at the time is kind of interesting. He made a quote that we still never know exactly what happened. It was just the right songs that came together. It's the first album we made where I was convinced every single song was good. And I think, it was an incredible album. So that's why I picked it. Good memories. Wow, that's some big lightning. REO Speedwagon. We need more bands like them again.
It's possible.
Did you like REO, Jeff, or no?
Well, I'll tell you, I was pretty big. I liked REO Speedwagon. That album in particular, I made my mom buy that record for my dad for his birthday. I was convinced he would like that album because I liked it so, like the one song I knew off it so much. Yeah. My dad never played it. I don't think ever once. I think the only time it was on was when I put it on, and but yeah, I was definitely into that.
I asked for it for my birthday, and I won't say who. Someone was gonna get it for me, but they got me the wrong album. And I guess my face showed how I felt, and they were very upset. Years later, they brought it up to me, and I felt really bad because, I mean, I don't know, how old were we? 9, you said?
Sorry for being human.
So I never got the album.
Wow.
But yeah, and it's okay. I forgive them. It was an honest mistake. I'm sorry that they still feel bad about it.
That is interesting.
I would just go the opposite way and just give him shit every time you see him. Yeah, that's the person right there that got me the wrong album. I never got it. I still don't have it.
Yeah. To this day.
Usually somebody buys somebody the wrong album, they go back and exchange it for the right one.
Yeah. But they didn't even go out and give me the remastered either later. Come on.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can find it in a used bin for anyway.
You could have made it up 10 years later by getting me Pyromania, but you didn't do that either, did you?
10 years later, what? They have an album in 1980. So before I get into my number one, I'm going to tell you Deb's 5 because she sent them to me. Her number 5, AC/DC Back in Black.
Check.
Her number 4, check mark, right? Check mark. Her number 4 was Duke from Genesis. Her statement on that would be, without Peter Gabriel and Steve Hackett, this was the band's opportunity to change their image. From the concept storytellers, however, the album is mini concept album consisting of 6 of the songs became known as the story of Albert. Not only did Phil Collins sing lead vocals, but so did Tony Banks, Mike Rutherford, which gave it a little bit more depth to the sound. My favorite on this album is Misunderstanding and Turn It On Again. Her number, where am I with her? Number 3 was Ozzy Osbourne's Wizard of Oz. Her statement there was, Ozzy's solo album is timeless to me. Crazy Train, Mr. Crowley are not a far cry from Black Sabbath's second, but Goodbye to Romance struck me as an interesting departure from the stereotype of Ozzy being the forever Iron Man. Ozzy is a legend. Her number 2, Bruce Springsteen's The River. Her statement on The River is, graduating in 1980 made it the summer of Springsteen. This album was on everyone's 8-track player. It has 20 songs with my favorites being Hungry Heart, Out in the Streets, and Cadillac Ranch. Clarence Clemens made playing a saxophone cool, and we didn't equate Stevie Van Zandt with the Sopranos just yet. And her number 1 is Peter Gabriel's 3rd album, Peter Gabriel, which is also known as Melt, because his face is melting on the front. Every song is unique, innovative, and some even socially conscious, touching on a variety of subjects, none of which are fluff. Example is Biko, was one of those songs that made me aware of and curious about apartheid. The album covers theatrical and artistic, making the statement that Peter Gabriel is not about the cosmetic, physically, emotionally, socially, financially, even though I'm sure he made a boatload of money on it. This album most certainly made it safe for other bands to take political stands that we probably hadn't seen since the 60s. It was also on my honorable mentions. There are some great stuff. Phil Collins is on that. And the first 2 Peter Gabriel records are good, don't get me wrong. But when this one comes along, Robert Fripp, Phil Collins, and some of the other musicians really helped this into basically a soloist progressive keyboard record, if you want. That's how I think. But the drums are insane on it, and Phil does most of them. There are a couple of other drummers that come in. So my number 1 is Genesis' Duke. I grew up on Genesis. I love Genesis, all forms of it, whether it's Phil or Peter. I'm probably partial to Phil because I was born in 72, and Phil dominated he couldn't write a bad song in the 1980s. This was definitely the most impressionable music band and connection in 1980 for me. The record is it has everything it needed to have for the progressive side, but it also had a pop sensibility to it. And the vocals to me were delivered better than Gabriel because they were a little bit more upfront. Gabriel doesn't have the range that Phil Collins does, and people might think I'm crazy, but maybe not. All right. So I won't go into more on Duke really, but so does anybody have honorable mentions they'd like to?
I mean, nothing that somebody hasn't already mentioned, but I'm trying to think. Didn't Olivia Newton-John have something out in 1980? Didn't she have like a huge hit?
Oh, that was Xanadu, right?
Yeah.
Xanadu, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that was big.
Yeah.
I'll throw in Yes's Drama, which I
Oh.
had listened to. I bought it on record, and I listened to it the day I bought it. But I listened to their album 2 days ago, 3 days ago, and
Mhm.
I love it. That opening track, Something Messiah, is definitely, they held on to their 70s, but I had no idea that was the quintessential moment where the other two guys left they were already out, Wakeman and they were already gone, and they did this without them, and it's it's a great record. It only has 5 songs on it, maybe. And one of them is only a minute and 30 some seconds long, and then the rest are epic. And I like the keyboard. What did I say? Why am I light? There's no overdwelling, in the vocals I think work even better. It's a little tinty, but probably sound better in a remastered, and I didn't have the remastered version, our headphones. But it's a scorcher in some cases. I don't know. It's perfectly timed too. Well put together. Sue, did you have any honorable mentions or ones that I had it on my list, but I didn't?
Well, like I said, I was thinking about Van Halen. I was thinking about Police. So they were hanging out there.
Okay, I will mention 2 on the obscure side. Or is it 3? It's 3. So I'm going to start off with Klaus Schulze. This is his 14th album. The avant-garde electronic composer, musician, melds into a new destination in digital combinations with instrument and his usual experimentation. This is actually the first record completely produced digitally. This is in 1980. It's a masterpiece. It's certainly a dynamic orchestration that blends the digital into time and space that's necessary. There are computerized voices in this, but they are low key and not, up front and in your face. I honestly believe that the reason this didn't get notoriety is the fact that the name of the album is Dig It. I don't know why it's called that. It doesn't have any funk to it. It's not something you're going to dig. It might be something you have to dig into or appreciate, but this is, he's a composer on the electronic keyboard. It's the drums too are fantastically done and put in. So something to look out if you've never heard of Dig It, and Klaus. He died in 2022 at the age of 74. But he's, like I said, that's his 14th record, and that's 1980. So he's got a huge catalog. We won't be doing the album ranking. The next one on my list, I'll save that one for last. So the name is Pylon. Ever heard of the band?
No.
I don't think so.
Okay, the name of the album is Gyrate. So Pylon, geez. Why they were not huge success, they toured with U2. It was all their own fault because they basically blew up on themselves. It's, fighting and crud that went on. Influential wheelhouse of post-punk, but very melodic with a hint of the Pretenders. This is one as raw as the Stooges back in the 70s, but went nowhere except to later influence people like REM and Joy Division. REM cites them as one of the best bands ever. So, little side note. My final one, honorable mentions, affects another giant in music. Young Marble Giant is the name of the band. Their album, Colossal Youth. Cited by the Kurt Cobain as one of his constant favorites and influentiality, his wife actually covered one of their songs on Live Through This. You will be surprised by drum track, bass, and guitar. And then guitar gone, and then an organ in. And then the guitar back in, and the organ gone. Simple female vocals, but pay attention to the sound quality compared to the 80s. That's probably been mentioned in the tops here that we've talked about. Some sound datedness comes from this, but the flow is consistent. It just has you absorb it. it's very interesting. I can understand where that influenced Kurt Cobain, and I can see where Courtney Love would do a cover. I highly recommend a listen. On my list, it was in the around the 9s. So I think that was all my honorable mentions. Yep, that was it. I loved going through this exercise because I don't have a real passion for 1980 or probably even 81. We'll see. We'll do this in 2 weeks when we go to 1990. I guarantee you that will be a difficult exercise. 1990 was an outstanding year in music, and a lot of changes were coming. And it will be. I'm hoping to have everyone from the panel on that one. This should be really good. We're on the web at www.beyondyourradio.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Please subscribe, like, comment. We want to know what you're thinking, what your lists are. Maybe we missed something from 1980. There were a ton of records. I tried to go through as many as I possibly could that I didn't recognize. I hope you enjoyed the show. Happy listening.
Bye.
Yeah.